Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm here in our Upload VR studios with Peter from Green Sky Games, who have just put out a brand new game, Swarm, which you can see on the middle of the screen there. Peter, how you going? Lovely to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm excited. Been
Yeah,
reading Upload VR for a long time now, so it's cool to be on the show.
yeah, fantastic, awesome. Well, first of all, do you want to just, introduce yourself a bit of your history with VR, and maybe introduce Swarm and explain a bit about the game to those who maybe don't know about it?
Yeah, so I'm originally been a software developer for a long time and got into VR in 2015, 2016 when I got the I think it was the DK2 and the Vive, and decided to go full time in VR in around 2016. And originally we were doing a VR design tool for the Rift, and we got into games in decided to make Swarm our first game in 2019. We started development, and here we are.
Mhm. So, for those who maybe haven't tried the game or seen anything about it, it's basically like an arcade shooter where you're also swinging around. You can swing with both hands, shoot with both hands. There's little robot drones everywhere. There's big boss battles. Um, it's quite a awesome game. I've played through just only the first zone. I played through the first zone when it came out. Probably what was it, 2 weeks ago or something now,
Yep.
and and then I went to go back in yesterday before we were talking, and I hadn't finished the boss, and I was like, "No, I can do this a few times. I'll just go through it a little bit and figure this out now." It's actually harder than I thought it was. I was having a I think I was playing on normal, but I was like, "Oh, I have to really think about this." But I think it's really um, cool and clever VR design. In that, I know on I think on the Green Sky site, there's this whole thing about building games that are meant to be played built for VR first, right, and not a port or not. And I think that really shows because everything is kind of there's nothing to collide with. There's nothing like everything feels really kind of organic. Um, and it looks awesome
Thanks.
too. It's got such a great art style. Now, Green Sky Games, this is the first game you guys have put out, right?
Yeah, and it's actually the
Yeah,
first game that most of us on the team have never built a game before. So this was
yeah,
really,
right. Okay,
um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. How many people were working on the game? Like, what's the size of the company? Are you guys a big team or?
So really small team. It varied over the course of development. There were points when we were just five, and then we went up to 15 at various points in development.
Hmm.
But I'd say the average, yeah, around like 10 people. So
Yeah,
super
right.
small team.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Um, what I guess what I wanted to know, because there's been a lot of comparisons, I think, understandably, to like Spider-Man with the swinging kind of element. Um, that's and I guess I don't know if that was an inspiration for you guys when you were making the game, but what were your kind of inspirations? While or what inspired you to kind of make the game? How did you come up with this concept of the swinging and the shooting and that kind of stuff?
Right, yeah. So really early on, it was kind of we wanted to do something with short sessions and something really intense because we were playing a lot of VR games at the time. We were building this VR design tool, but at the end of the day, my co-founder and I we'd play VR games, and the stuff we were enjoying the most was like the intense stuff, the stuff where you could go in for 15 minutes and have a good time, or half an hour and have a good time. You didn't have to wear the headset for an hour, 2 hours. So that was
Mm,
like our starting point, and then it was um, like we were also thinking about how like VR movement is or locomotion is one of the biggest problems in VR and the hardest problem to solve really. And so we thought maybe we can build a game where we don't just build a game and then just like do like the standard things to solve locomotion as best we can, but actually we make locomotion the main thing in the game. Like the game is about movement, and then we'll figure out the rest of the game. So, like really early on, we were prototyping loads of different movement mechanics, and grappling was like high on our list because we'd loved Windlands, we loved Spider Man, um, and we thought we could use grappling to make something extremely intense.
mm,
And I mean,
mm.
other kind of influences are like like Titanfall 2 and like the grappling and the wall running in Titanfall 2.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's very interesting too because I was expecting, having seen footage of it, I'm generally pretty good with like VR motion sickness. Too much kind of artificial movement will after a while will make me feel a bit ill. But um I found similar to like Echo VR in that when I'm, in that game, obviously you're kind of holding on to things and pushing off and you have this feeling of kind of you're creating the movement. And so I don't really get sick playing that, which I still find kind of strange, even if I understand why. I found with this, I didn't really get too sick either. And I'm not sure if that's just because I'm getting more accustomed to over time to this kind of movement. But it's a lot. It's very intense. And I found that I was swinging around and shooting things and really still feeling pretty good, 20, 30 minutes in. And that's, as you
Hmm.
said, it's kind of designed to be that length anyway, or that kind of playtime. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure if it's the same principle of Echo VR that my body feels like it's producing the movement, but it was really well done. I found.
Yeah,
Was
I
that
think
something that was
there are,
intentional?
yes. So when we originally had the grappling idea, we thought it's probably going to make people sick, but we're going to try this anyway. And we tried it and we loved it, but my co-founder and I don't really get motion sickness. So we started
Mm,
testing it with everyone in our office, including people that don't play VR. And we started testing it with people that definitely play VR and get motion sickness. And originally, like from the start, because of the art style and the way we built grappling, it wasn't as bad as we expected. And then on top of that, we did a lot of things to improve it. So everything from um, when you there are a lot of little things like when you grapple to something that's too close, we stop you from spinning around the hook because that would definitely like really quick
yeah,
spinning would
right,
make you motion sick for sure. And like I said, like the art style with it being um, low poly and not like high frequency textures, we think makes a difference. You don't have the like fast moving objects in your peripheral vision
right, yeah, yeah,
and like
yeah. That's very
stationary
interesting.
environments. Yeah, there's a lot going on to prevent motion sickness.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because I think you've done a really good job. Because I was surprised at how little motion sick I got um, compared to other things. Even when I'm just moving, it's funny because there's so much more movement in this than some other games I play, where I'm just kind of using a joystick and moving along a corridor. Um, but yeah, you can
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
tell that the work's paid off. It's fantastic.
yeah. You look at the trailer and it looks like yeah, this is for sure going to make everyone motion sick. Been one of the funnest things about working on it. Just like surprising people when they actually try it and they find out oh, it's
Yeah,
actually fine.
yeah, that's awesome. Before the next question, I just want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Onikazi, G Dog Cheeseburger, VR Dynamite. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll get to them. So please let us know what you're thinking. Chuck some questions for Peter in there. Now, I did want to actually talk about the art style as well because you just mentioned it. But um, obviously, as you said, there's ways that helps with the motion sickness and the locomotion. Besides that, was this because obviously you guys released on Quest? Did you guys start developing this? You said it was 2019. So were you always intending to release on Quest, and was the art style something that factored into that in terms of like performance?
Yep. So we were given the Quest, I'd say like a few months before it came out, the Quest One, and as soon as we got it, we were excited to build a game because it just felt like this is going to be an awesome gaming device.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and yeah, we knew it was the super performance limited, and that was like a big reason for deciding to go with like a toony stylized look.
hmm
Um, yeah,
yeah, yeah. But I think it looks really it really pops too. I really love the. There's been a few games now on Quest that have come up like this with a similar kind of toony art style for performance reasons. I think this one really pops. It's really fun and visually kind of interesting as well. I'm a huge fan. Um, what else have I got on here? And let me check out the questions in the chat. Oh, we've got VR Dynamite is says just in VR and you go zooming towards either a platform or an enemy, and if you hit the enemy, they will basically die or take damage. Um, and so I'm guessing it is, but I'm guessing that's also an intentional choice of like, well, if we're going to make something collide, it has an effect, and it's kind of not got that disconnect in the same way where I can go through the wall or I can kind of do other things? Was that again another intentional kind of choice you guys made?
Yeah, so like from the start, when you swung into enemies, we had it that the enemies would die. And the
Hmm.
zip was actually one of our developers just did like prototype zip at a weekend. Just he had the idea on a Sunday and he started building it. And on Monday we all tried it, absolutely loved it. And zip has become like one of the best parts of the game. So that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's really
We've also got
gone.
the arena walls, which
Hmm. Yeah.
we use that as like kind of like wrestling, where you like jump into the wall and it like bounces you back into the arena.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I hadn't thought of that. That is true. Yeah, you can. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's really awesome because nothing in the game feels like everything I'm doing is translating perfectly, and there's none of those moments where you kind of go, oh, this is a wall I can go through it. This is something I'm trying to pick up, and I can't. Like um, it's really well done, and it's great to. It's a great game. I would feel like even though it's quite intense, it almost feels like a good one to give to someone who hasn't had much experience in VR because it's such a quintessentially VR game. Are there any other games, at least like even you personally, that you've played in VR? What are your favorite kind of VR games or ones that might have inspired you design wise when you were going through Swarm?
I mean, the first VR game I tried that got me really excited for VR gaming was Robo Recall, which I feel like
Mm-hmm.
doesn't like people don't talk about it much anymore, but I thought that game was absolutely awesome.
Mm,
Um, I mean, obviously, Beat Saber, um, the usability of Beat Saber was a huge influence on us, but also like we were always thinking about like Beat Saber has zero controls. You're just moving the controller.
yeah.
And originally, when we started on Swarm, we were like, okay, we're gonna need to have one control to fire the grapple, but maybe that's like the only control we'll have. And over time, we ended up adding more controls. We couldn't help it, but um, the overall idea of just like making VR super accessible to new players was always on our mind. Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm. Let me have a look at the comments. So I think maybe the stream might have glitched out briefly. So to respond to VR Dynamite, could you maybe repeat the answer you said on B haptics, because I think maybe the stream was buffering at that
Okay.
point.
Yeah. Yeah. So we haven't announced anything yet, and we're not quite ready to, but we are talking to the people at B Haptics, and I mean we think what they're doing is really cool. So hopefully we'll be able to work together.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Um, Now, speaking, I guess, more generally about the game, not so much from a design sense, how has the release gone for you guys? Are you guys happy with the release? Um, Happy with the reaction to the game? Been your impressions post launch, I guess?
Yeah. We're absolutely like over the moon, and it's gone far better than we were expecting. Like we've had about 1,000 playtesters helping us on throughout development for the last year and a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we had some sense that like there's going to be like for sure some people are going to love this game because you know our playtesters really love it, and they've been massive parts of like making the game as good as it is today. But we didn't imagine that we'd have just such like broad, uh, like great reviews. Like it's been awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that's really awesome. And it's on Quest, it's on PCVR as well, right? Um, PSVR, it's not currently on. Is there any chance of a PSVR port maybe in the future for PSVR players who might be watching?
Yeah. So again, we haven't announced anything yet, but we want to be on as many headsets as we can. And yeah,
Yeah,
PSVR is definitely one of them.
yeah, awesome. Um, the other thing I was going to ask too, with Quest, there's the whole uh, element of the official store and getting onto that. Um, what was the process like with you guys dealing with Oculus and trying to get onto the official store? Did you guys have a backup plan for if that didn't eventuate? What did that process kind of look like for you guys?
Yeah. We didn't have a backup. We just just kind of hoping for the best. So we applied almost as soon as they announced the review process, and that was an option. We applied with Swarm,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it was actually they. I'm not sure how much of this I'm allowed to share, but um, our kind of dev relations person at Oculus kind of really pushed for us to be accepted, because we were originally not going to be accepted because of the amount of movement, and it just looks like a game that's not going to work in VR without making people sick.
Mm,
And
mm,
but one of the guys at Oculus really pushed for Swarm to be able to exist today, and
yeah,
that's great.
yeah, awesome.
But I got to say that I think the uh, the new app labs is the way to go with
Mm,
letting everybody on the store, and then the stuff that the stuff that works gets onto the main store. That's sounds like a much better approach to me.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Um, Again, to everyone in the chat, if you've got any questions, chuck them in now. Now let me have a look here. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is, now that the game's released, what's the plan for the studio next? Are you guys? I know you probably haven't announced anything, but are you thinking about any DLC or more levels? It seems like the kind of game where you could put in an expansion of another zone or some more levels or new game modes or stuff like that. Is the plan to kind of keep working on stuff for Swarm, or are you working on something else now?
Yes, we definitely want to keep going on Swarm. It was always our goal before release to keep working on Swarm, because we kind of built this movement mechanic that we thought was really cool, and then we built almost the simplest game around that movement mechanic that we could, that let you have like all these like let you really explore the movement mechanic, and like feel like a badass like every 5 seconds.
Yeah,
But there's so much more you could do with this mechanic. So yeah, we're definitely planning to keep working on Swarm. And I mean, the update which we have announced, which is coming soon, is we're working on an endless mode, which
mm-hmm.
is going to be like is every week you'll get like a new seed, and so it'll be a constantly rotating endless mode with its own like weekly leaderboard. We're
Yeah,
pretty
right.
excited about that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, as you said, I can see so much potential for different modes, different ways to use the mechanic. So yeah, that's very exciting. And I think tying into that, a good tying question. VR Dynamite just said, anything you wish made it into the game, but didn't. And if so, could we possibly see it as DLC one day? But yeah, are there any things that you guys that kind of maybe got cut from the original game, that your ideas you had that you're interested to explore more?
Yeah, so there's so much. I think an easy one is we used to have bounce pads, like trampolines we called them,
Yeah,
in the levels, and we couldn't quite make it work in time for launch. So you have to be really careful about that, not to make people sick,
yeah,
because it does mean you're changing direction quickly. But
yeah.
it's really really fun, like as a different way to move around the arena. So that is definitely one that I'm hoping we can get back into the game at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the hardest thing for you guys over what had been, I guess, 2 years development? What was the hardest point or the hardest thing to implement, or the kind of toughest barrier you guys overcame when you were, designing stuff?
Yeah, I would say it was teaching people how to grapple, since it's something you've never really done. There's no like parallel for this.
Yeah.
There are 2D games that have grappling, but is nothing like grappling in VR. And teaching
Mm.
people to there's quite a lot of nuance to grappling. Um, like obviously you've tried the game, you can apply tension on the rope, and getting the tension right is like a big part of being really good at moving around the arena quickly and surviving. So we spent a lot of time iterating on the tutorial and like introducing skills at different points in the game, making sure the difficulty was right so that people had time to actually learn grappling without being like killed by enemies while they were trying to learn.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, no, I think that's a really I think the tutorial works really well, because the comparison I keep coming back to, not just because I think everyone's made the comparison, but there was a Spider-Man like web VR experience that I played, and I'm
Yeah.
a big Spider-Man fan, as are many people, and it was kind of like a nothing, like it was just like some fan made thing. It was really fun, but that had ways too where you could kind of shoot webs and then like make a fist, or yeah, this is the one. There you go. Thanks, Heaney. You could shoot webs and kind of pull, and then like make certain fists to turn around corners fast and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't explained, and I've played it enough that I figured it out.
Yeah.
But it took a while for me to kind of get it. As you can see, I recorded this like a couple of times after I played it, and I've played it since then and kind of understand it better. But I did appreciate the tutorial in Swarm really gave you a good kind of enough time to figure out all the separate parts, and there was a good level of difficulty there. Yeah, no, I think that's really well done, and I think the kind of tension mechanics and the pulling on the string works really well as well, and probably, as you were saying before, definitely helps with that kind of sense of movement and avoiding the motion sickness stuff.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I have a look at I've got there's one more question here, but I think the bottom of it is slightly cut off on my screen. But Kumi Dark Angels says lots of chatter about multiplayer. Is there any chatter on your end about multiplayer?
Yeah, there definitely is. So, I mean, our playtests have been asking for multiplayer for a long time, and the dev team would really like to do multiplayer as well.
Yeah.
I can say that we are doing internal tests, and we are hoping that we can release a multiplayer mode, but no promises yet, and
Yep.
we can't. It's difficult to say what it's going to look like at this point. But
Yep.
we're not going to release it unless it's as we want to make it as awesome, if not more awesome, than the single player mode. Not like just multiplayer for the sake of it, but like a truly awesome multiplayer that like it retains what's special about single player Swarm.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's everything. All the questions I had. Anything else you want to say to those watching, some of the people who've played the game before we finish up?
Yeah, I would just say if you are interested in joining playtests for like future updates of Swarm or staying up to date with Swarm, then join our Discord. You can find it on swarmvr.com. Oh, sorry, swarmvrgame.com. And
Yeah.
I'd also just like to thank all our playtesters that have been like a huge part of the development of Swarm. And yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining, Peter. If you guys at home haven't checked out Swarm, it's on Quest and PCVR, is it Steam and Oculus store? Is that right?
Just Oculus for now.
Just
Yeah.
Oculus. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's on the Oculus store for PCVR and obviously on the Oculus store for Quest. But thanks for joining, Peter. Lovely to have you. Great work on the game. And thanks to everyone who's watching at home. And thanks for the questions you guys sent through. But thanks very much, guys. See you soon.
Thank you.